The feed came in clean, no glitches, no stutters, just the hum of a microphone and the too perfect quiet of a government chamber dressed up for television. The network intro had faded out. What remained was tension, real and raw. Trump was already seated, relaxed in his performance. Chin slightly up, that half smirk sitting like a brand. Across the aisle, Jasmine Crockett adjusted her mic. Slow, precise, her expression unreadable, her stillness loud. She didn't look at him. Not yet. The moderator cleared his throat. We'll begin with statements regarding U.S. foreign interest disclosures and conflict zone lobbying. Trump chuckled. Not loud, but enough to carry, enough to provoke. Oh, good, he said. We're starting with fairy tales. A few awkward smiles flickered in the room, not laughter, just complicity. Jasmine didn't move, still no reaction. That was the first signal. She wasn't here to play defense. Trump leaned into the mic again. Let's be honest, none of them know what Ukraine even is. Half the people in this room couldn't find Kiev on a map, but suddenly they're experts? Come on. Jasmine blinked, once. Then she looked up, not with outrage, not with panic, but with the kind of calm that makes people nervous. The kind that says, you've already lost. You just don't know it yet. And then she finally spoke. If you're finished with jokes, I'd like to speak now, and I suggest you listen, because by the end of this, you'll wish you had. Trump tilted back in his chair, elbows resting wide like the room belonged to him. Sure, he said, nodding toward Jasmine without looking directly at her. Let the TikTok congresswoman take the floor. A few staffers chuckled nervously. He wasn't joking, but he wanted it to sound like one. Go ahead, he added. Tell us how democracy works in, international finance or wherever you studied that. Jasmine didn't respond. Yet, I mean, really, Trump continued, tone thick with mockery. These people get a law degree and think they're suddenly experts on military zones, oil pipelines, and Eastern Europe. He tapped his pen on the table. Deliberate. You ever been to Ukraine, Jasmine? He asked, still without looking at her. Didn't think so. A pause. He smirked wider. See, I've actually met with leaders, signed deals, moved pieces around the board. Meanwhile, you're tweeting hashtags and doing interviews about justice like it's a brand. He turned, finally locking eyes with her. So sure, educate me. Let's hear what the internet congresswoman has to say about war. But Jasmine didn't blink, didn't move. She just leaned forward slightly and clicked on her mic. That sound, the pop of readiness, echoed louder than anything Trump had just said. You talk about war, she said, but I came here to talk about money. Yours. That's when his smirk slipped. Just a little. Because in that moment, he realized she didn't come to argue, she came to expose. Jasmine didn't rush. That was her power. While Trump leaned on volume and dominance, she leaned on silence, the kind that doesn't ask for attention, it commands it. Jasmine didn't change her tone. She didn't raise her voice. That's what made it hit harder. Mr. Trump, she said, you've spent a lot of time talking about what Ukraine isn't worth. You've called it a distraction. You've called it expensive. She flipped over the paper slowly. Now there were figures, dates, names. But I'm curious, if it's such a burden, why were millions moved through accounts tied to your family just days before the war started? Trump blinked, just once. Jasmine continued, you love to say you've dealt with Ukraine. That's true. In fact, you've been dealing with Ukrainian entities for nearly a decade, some public, some conveniently quiet. Trump tried to cut in. That's false. It's documented, she replied before he could finish. She held up a file. Not thick, not flashy, just official. Labeled. There's a wire transfer dated February 23rd, 2022, from a Cyprus-based intermediary masked through two holding companies. The origin tracks back to a firm contracted by Ukrainian gas leadership. Trump looked sideways now, not at her, not at anyone. Now, maybe that's normal to you, Jasmine said. Maybe you think war is just leverage. But to the rest of us, 2.4 million looks like a motive. And just like that, the hearing wasn't about theory anymore. It was about numbers and one very specific wire. Jasmine placed the folder flat on the desk. She didn't wave it, didn't raise it for the cameras. She let the silence build around it. February 23rd, 2022, she repeated. The day before Russia invaded Ukraine, $2.4 million. Transferred from a firm linked to Eastern European energy lobbying. Her voice sharpened, not louder, but colder. The destination? A private account in New York, managed through a shell group tied to your former CFO. Trump leaned back, suddenly too still. His expression lost its rhythm. No grin, just calculation. And 3 days later, Jasmine continued, you called Ukraine a local issue. You told the press it wasn't America's problem. She tapped the document once. So which part was America not supposed to worry about? The war or the money? She looked him dead in the eye. You want to frame this as foreign policy? I see something else. Another tap. Influence, hidden, bought, and now exposed. For a moment, Trump didn't even blink. The room didn't move. Jasmine leaned in slightly. You call this fiction? Prove it. Open the records. Show us what that wire was for. No one spoke. Until then, she said, sliding the folder to the center of the table, this isn't a rumor, it's a receipt. That was the blow. Not noise, not drama, just facts, and a wire transfer that now had a name. His. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Donald Trump, a man who never missed a chance to interrupt, insult, or spin, now sat wordless. He glanced at the folder again, like maybe he misread something, but the cover was clear. Date, amount, destination. There was no misreading it. Jasmine didn't flinch, didn't follow up. She didn't need to. The silence did all the talking. A staffer behind Trump leaned forward, whispering something. He waved them off too quickly. His hand trembled, just slightly. I don't know what that is, he muttered. It wasn't a defense. It was a reflex. It's your signature, Jasmine said coolly. Bottom of page 3. His mouth pressed into a line. A camera clicked from across the room. Not for drama, not for headlines, just to capture a man being undone. This is fake, Trump snapped, suddenly louder. It's all bank verified, time stamped, authenticated by the Treasury Committee. Jasmine's voice cut through his deflection like steel. He stood up, halfway, then stopped. And that's when everyone saw it. Not just discomfort, not just anger. Fear, the kind of fear that doesn't scream, the kind that knows. You said you supported Ukraine, Jasmine added. Turns out Ukraine supported you. He sat back down slowly. Still no words. The man who made a career out of dominating a room just lost it in less than 2 minutes. Jasmine didn't gloat. She didn't blink. She just sat in that silence, steady, surgical, waiting. Trump shifted in his seat again, trying to reclaim breath, rhythm, authority, but it was gone. This is a setup, he muttered. Another witch hunt. Jasmine tilted her head slightly, not amused, not angry, just done. Then she spoke. That wire wasn't for Ukraine aid. 6 words. That was it. No outburst, no accusations, just surgical precision aimed at the very narrative he'd built for years. Around the room, the energy changed. No dramatic reaction, just tension imploding inward. Trump's shoulders dropped just a bit, like the weight of those 6 words hit him in a place spin couldn't cover. "Excuse me?" he snapped, louder than before. But it didn't land. Jasmine repeated it, slower this time. "That wire wasn't for Ukraine aid." Then silence. She didn't follow it with a threat. She didn't fill the space with noise. Because she didn't need to. The implication rang louder than anything else. That money didn't just buy silence. It bought position, policy, and maybe betrayal. Trump looked around, searching for backup, but nobody was moving. Jasmine leaned back, crossing her arms. "You love to talk about American strength," she said. "Turns out you just rented it." The silence after that? It wasn't awkward. It was devastation. Jasmine let the room breathe, but inside her, something had already cracked open. "I didn't bring this here for ratings," she said quietly. "I brought it here because my cousin came home in a flag-draped coffin after your administration ghosted the aid package he relied on." Her voice didn't tremble. It pulsed. "He believed in this country. I believed in this system. But he bled in a war you used for leverage, for influence, for deposits." She looked down for the first time. Just a moment, then back up, stronger. "You talk about patriotism like it's a branding campaign. You throw flags on hats and call that service. But I've buried more American loyalty in one cemetery than you've shown in 20 rallies." Trump didn't speak, didn't interrupt. "This isn't political for me," Jasmine added. "It's personal. I have names in my phone I can't call anymore. I have letters I never got to answer." Her hands were still, but her voice was a blade. "And when I saw that transfer, when I saw $2.4 million moved under the table while families were rationing medicine in bomb shelters, I knew this wasn't just corruption." A pause. Then she said it like a verdict. "It was betrayal, and I'm done pretending it's normal." You could hear her heart in every word, but no one would dare call it emotional because it wasn't about tears. It was about truth and what it costs to carry it. For a moment, nobody moved. Not the aides, not the panelists. Trump stared forward, blinking like he was still processing or buffering. Jasmine hadn't raised her voice once, but somehow she was now the gravitational center of the room. "I'd like this entered into the record," she said, sliding the folder toward the committee clerk. Even the clerk hesitated, like he was handling evidence that burned. One of Trump's attorneys leaned in to whisper something, but Trump didn't move. That was the real shift, not applause, not headlines, just fear, finally flowing in the opposite direction. Jasmine sat back, arms crossed, calm again, but not passive. She looked like someone who had waited too long for this moment to let it shake her. "Are there any responses?" the moderator asked, his voice suddenly thin. None. The silence spoke louder than any objection. One senator cleared his throat but didn't follow through. Another avoided eye contact entirely. The camera panned nowhere. It didn't need to. The story was already unfolding in stillness. Trump reached for a glass of water but set it down without drinking. Even that gesture felt clumsy, like the choreography was broken. Because it was. For years, he dictated the temperature of every room he walked into, but now the heat wasn't his to control. Jasmine had flipped the current, with a folder and a fact, and the room, the narrative, the power, all of it now answered to her. Jasmine didn't need to say another word. She gathered her papers with quiet precision. No rush, no flair, just finality. Trump was still seated, hands clasped in front of him, jaw locked in that strange space between fury and confusion. The committee had nothing left to add. The room wasn't just silent, it was shifted. As Jasmine stood, a few chairs creaked across the aisle, not in protest, in awareness. People knew what they had just witnessed. Not a performance, not a takedown, but a reversal. Power, raw, unfiltered, and quiet, had just walked in, told the truth, and walked out. Jasmine turned to leave, but before exiting, she stopped. One last glance at the man who'd tried to define her with labels, with mockery, with underestimation. Truth doesn't yell, she said. It just outlives the lies. And with that, she left. No exit music, no raised fist, just silence, the kind that settles in deep and doesn't leave. Trump sat frozen, as if still hoping someone would spin it for him, reshape it, undo it. But it was done. What started as a platform had become a reckoning. Jasmine Crockett didn't just survive the room. She rewrote its rules. And long after the cameras shut off, her words kept echoing. Not because she shouted, but because they were true. "Thank you," she said evenly, eyes not moving from his. It's always interesting when men who've never paid the full price of war try to mock the ones still counting the cost. She placed a single sheet of paper in front of her, clean, unmarked. "I'm not here to debate foreign theory. I'm here because there's a pattern, one you've left in wire transfers, contract shells, and encrypted files." Trump shifted, just slightly. "See, I didn't study international law to sound smart. I studied it because people like you made a business out of hiding consequences." She leaned in, voice never rising. "And today, I didn't come with opinions. I came with receipts." She tapped the paper once. "You want to call me names? Fine. Call me TikTok. Call me loud. Call me whatever gets your bass clapping." Then, with the weight of something personal, "But what you won't do is walk out of this room pretending you didn't get paid, while people died." Her words landed like cold steel, not fiery, not performative, just impossible to ignore. Trump opened his mouth, but for the first time, he didn't know what to say. Jasmine had just shifted the room, not with volume, but with control.